I'm just coming on to that actually.
Thank you, Paul.
We always record our meetings and take high point notes of the meetings. Now, one of the things we pride ourselves on, one of the great values of BIM for housing and BIM in asset management, is people are open. You've got competitors sharing things with each other. It's a very open, very transparent get together. A cat can look at a king. The guy who's installing the fire doors in a building can be sitting figuratively sitting next to the guy who or the woman who owns the building, and talking at obviously at an equal level. Now, the only problem with that is that occasionally, sometimes someone overspeaks. And when they do that, they've maybe said something they shouldn't really have said or wouldn't want on the record. We can delete it. We can edit obviously the high points and the video before it goes public. Likewise, someone might say, right, can you turn it off because I'm going to tell you something, but I don't want it recorded, which will stop the recording. We can't do that with people's AI note takers. So after this, from the end of this meeting, we are blocking all AI note takers for that reason. We've left them on for today, but this will be the last day. Okay, so the drop-in centre. Right, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, 8:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock. George or I will be online for anyone to drop in who's got something they just want to talk about, something they want to boast about, something they're a bit not sure about, want a bit of advice. And, you know, there's a good chance there'll be somebody else on that call who, if can't give them the advice, can point them in the right direction. And within reason, we can also, you know, help you out finding someone who can help you out, or put you in touch with somebody who can put you in touch with somebody who can sort out that issue. So if you've got something that's going really well, or something you just want to boast about, something you've got an issue about, or you just want to have a chat with a coffee for half an hour before you actually get cracking, then 8:30 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Friday, starting next Monday. We'll put a link in the chat right now, which will be the same link you can use any day. It's the BIM and AM drop-in. So anybody who wants to come along or pop in or just see what's going on, please do so. We'll look forward to having a chat with you. At which point, George, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was also going to say, if you know people that you think could contribute or would be interested in what we're doing, then please feel free to pass it on to them as well, because what we're trying to do is to just increase awareness in the industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, George, you want to let's have a look at the poll we took last time.
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to mention, by the way, just before I show go into the poll, that we're getting attention. Yeah, so that's what we had last year from MHCLG, and this is something that I got just recently from Tim Galloway at the HSE. So we're getting, yeah, as a community, we're being recognised. And also, one of the main publications, Atom, that does Digital Construction Week, they do BIM Plus, they do construction management. Richard and I had an hour and a half conversation interview with one of the main journalists there, Denise Chevin, on Friday. And she's very interested in what we're doing as a community. So there's something going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks that sort of endorses what explains what we're doing. Okay. So the poll itself, if you've not received a copy of the poll of the survey, please put you'd like a copy of the survey in the chat. I know that we've emailed it out to some people, but not everybody's got it. Not everybody finds it. And when you see the results, I think you'll be interested. For a start, the 92% of people said that they were not confident that they would receive accurate and complete fire safety information at the end of their projects. Now, I think that's an amazing percentage statistic, and one that really should bother us. And I think most of the people on this call would well, this was the result of the last meeting. So the 72% were not confident the health and safety and O&M information is accurate and being updated with any changes. So again, that's quite a shocking, if not surprising, statistic. This is a very interesting one, I think. The whole point about the fire and emergency file is that it's not simply something that is handed over at the end of the construction period. It's by law, it's got to be kept up to date. And I don't know whether there's adequate provision in place within organisations to do that, including keeping up to date, for example, the maybe drawings that are in the secure information box. And we're getting a lot of examples now fed back to us of situations when people have looked in the secure information box that the floor plans aren't correct. And this is possibly the main cause of it, and that is that 89% believe that their CEO or FD, in other words, the people that are controlling the purse strings, aren't aware of their duties under the Building Safety Act. So if you want a copy of that survey, please put survey into the chat and we'll let you have it.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry. A lot of people have written, can I have a copy? Put copy or survey into the chat and we'll pick it up. As long as your answer includes the words copy or survey. Sorry, John.
Thank you. So this has been a very useful thing, I think, for us to get feedback and results from people at the coalface, what their real experience is. So we're going to ask you to do another survey now. So can I hand over to you, Richard?
Absolutely. Jess will put the link into the chat right now, which will be a link to the poll. And we ask you all to participate because it really is valuable and it's something we can use for the future and we can all learn from. And then when you've done that, Jess, can you share the poll, please?
It is anonymous, so that's the important thing here. It's anonymous.
Absolutely.
But the value of it, it's coming from people who are real, in my view, you are the top probably 5% in the industry of people who are aware of the new regs and how to address them. So I'll shut up now and let you do it.
Okay, Jess, if you can share if you put the link into the chat. Yeah. If people go on to the link. Okay, Jess, if you can share the poll, so I can go through it. Okay, right. Question 1. Have you experienced FM contractors closing off reactive calls that were actually not completed? Yes or no? Have you experienced FM contractors closing off reactive calls that were not actually completed?
We've had quite a few reports of that happening, so that's why we're asking the question.
Okay, question 2. Should the completion of outstanding actions from fire risk assessments and reactive calls be overseen by the responsible person? Yes or no? Should the completion of outstanding actions from fire risk assessments and reactive calls be overseen by the responsible person? Yes or no?
Can I just explain that very briefly, Richard?
If you're very quick, George.
Very, very brief, yeah. So the point is, if people just say, we've had a fire risk assessment done, the fire risk assessment might actually say there's a huge number of things that need to be done. And therefore, unless people actually action the things, what's the point of having the fire risk assessment? It's not really just, we've had a fire risk assessment done. I think everybody understands that, but I'm just making that observation.
Okay, number 3. How easy is it to use and update the fire stopping records delivered by construction? Easy, difficult, impossible. How easy is it to use and update the fire stopping records delivered by construction? Okay, number 4. Should the responsible person have a record of which safety critical assets have not been inspected? Should the responsible person have a record of which safety critical assets have not been inspected? Yes or no? Number 5. Should the responsible person know which individual assets protect each compartment and their inspection history? Should the responsible person know which individual assets protect each compartment and their inspection history? Yes or no?
This is part of the golden thread, that systems of systems.
Number 6. Should handover information include the location space reference for each asset, especially MEP? Should handover information include the location or space reference for each asset, especially MEP? Yes or no? Number 7. Are you asked to report on embodied carbon? Are you asked to report on embodied carbon? Again, yes or no? Number 8. Are you asked to report on operational carbon? Are you asked to report on operational carbon? Yes or no? Number 9. Are you using AI or large language models to check the completeness of handover information, in particular the fire and emergency file? Are you using AI or large language models to check the completeness of handover information, in particular the fire and emergency file? Yes or no? And last one, should the responsible person know, oh, there's another one. Should the responsible, oh my word. Should the responsible person know where all the penetration seals are and what product material was used? Should the responsible person know where all the penetration seals are and what product or material was used? Yes or no? Number 11, what is the life expectancy of penetration steel? What is the life expectancy of a penetration seal? 10 years, 2 years, 50 years, 100 years. Should the fire risk assessment include inspection of penetration and fire stopping? Should the fire risk assessment include inspection of penetration seals and fire stopping? Yes or no?
That woman's name now.
How frequently should penetration seals be checked? How frequently should penetration seals be checked? Weekly, monthly, 3 monthly, 6 monthly, yearly? And the last one. Should fire risk assessments include checking above ceilings and in risers? Should fire risk assessments include checking above ceilings and in risers? Yes or no? Excellent. Now, if anybody has got any interest in getting involved in going through and looking at these issues in greater detail and the ramifications of the answers to this poll, if you could put into the chat action. Put into the chat action. and we'll be in touch with you to join that action group on these issues. Action into the poll, into the chat. Okay, Jess, thank you. Right, so where are we now? Okay, we're going to have a roundup of what we've been doing. Recent activities. George, do you want to take that away?
Yep. Okay, so it's interesting. It's not progressing. Sorry. I'm going to have to stop and start again.
All of that portion, you should recall. It's 5, that's 6, 6.
Okay.
I sort of document come through to my email. It's a little
Sorry,
strange.
could you
check that it's
Can you all turn your mics off, please? Thank you.
Cheers. Yeah, so right, in terms of what we've been doing recently, we've now got a new version of the fire door and inspection platform guidance that we've been producing, which was developed originally with the NHS. So what we're asking people to do is to peer review this, because this is a new version of the fire door inspection. And it's a really good document, and it goes into significant detail. So I'd like, if people are interested in doing a peer review of fire doors, could you put your name in? Could you put fire door review in the chat? The objective of this is to really get something that we can then feed into people, so we're up in the game of people. What we've also got is one for fire doors, fire stopping, and cavity barriers. So again, we'd like people that have an interest in any of those asset types. If you'd like to be part of the peer review before the thing is published, please put your name in the chat, or put dampers and fire stopping in the chat. Okay. What we've also been doing, the whole point about this is to upskill the industry. So we've been working with the Supply Chain Sustainability School, which is an organization that provides free training to SMEs. It's funded by most of the big corporations, and many of you, possibly are working for organizations that fund and support the Supply Chain Sustainability School. But what we're doing, we're using this to actually provide training. That's the plan, to provide training, and we're doing this on the back of the various different groups that we've got working. So, for example, we've got the Digital Asset Capture group, and if you're part of that Digital Asset Capture group, that's great. You'll probably hopefully see your name here. But if you aren't part of it at the moment and you want to be part of any of these groups, I'm just going to step through a few of them. If you could put DAC, for example, Digital Asset Capture, this is the same as 360s, by the way. So we talk about both. Put that in and we'll invite you, and you can be part of that group. We've also got a really big group, which is excellent, on digital handover. And that's something that we want to build on. So again, if you see your name here, that's fine. But if you're not sure whether you're actually in the group, then put digital handover in the chat. We PFI handback and room data sheets is an area that we've had a number of conversations on, and Matt Wilkie is going to be leading on that, and we've got a group there interested in that. So if you're interested in any of those areas, please put in either ADB or PFI. We can then bring you into that group. We got a tremendous result or response to WhatsApp. People wanting to be part of the WhatsApp community, which is part of what Richard was talking about earlier, the drop-in in the mornings. But not everybody's given us their WhatsApp number. So if you haven't given us your WhatsApp number, obviously it's difficult to be part of the group. So if you could let us have your WhatsApp number, that'd be fantastic. And this is the Golden Thread group, which I'm going to talk about the Golden Thread Task Force now. But this is another group that's very active. And actually, a lot of the things that we've been talking about with digital handover are actually being satisfied by the Golden Thread group. So if you want to be part of the Golden Thread group, again, put that in the chat. This next one was very popular, and sorry, I can hear everybody going crazy at the moment. So that's great. This is the Miro board. So the Miro board was something that was created by a group of us in BIM for Housing, in a common way, interpreting the new regulations, because everybody's got a different interpretation of what the regulations require us to do. So the Miro board was set up for the team to actually bring that together, and it's a fantastic resource. So if you want access to the Miro board, these are the people that have already registered for the Miro board. And you can go on there, you can find information. Importantly, you can ask for information as well, and one of the other members of the team will probably be able to help you. So if we then move on to what else we've been doing.
So if you want that, put Miro in the chat. If you want to get onto the Miro book, put Miro into the chat. Yep.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, so we did a session at Digital Construction Week at Excel 2 weeks ago, which was an absolute sellout. We had about 60 or 70 people in the audience, and the principle that the topic that engaged people was, why aren't FMs using the BIM models that are being handed over, and how could we improve adoption? So we had Pencho Studenkoff from Places for People, Matt Wilkie, he's an expert in asset management, and also Nathan Cubley from Open Space. And basically we had a really good session focusing on Regulation 38, and then we started looking at how we are operating that. So to really communicate the principle of, if we've got a fire in a kitchen, and a number of you will have seen this before, but it's still very relevant. How do we prevent smoke from spreading? Largely, it's compartmentation, and the whole point about the golden thread, for example, is to make sure that all of the assets that go to make up a compartment wall are valid and working. And the challenge with that is that we're getting, and it's great, we're getting lots and lots of golden threads being handed over at completion. But how do we tie them all together? How do we tie together the BIM models, the floor plans, which are often drawings, separate drawings, and then how do we ensure that inspections that are being done are actually going to pick up the same asset? And therefore, if you've got other software applications being used, really good software applications that are being used, they need to refer back to the same asset. So therefore, what we're therefore doing is we're now using this to say, okay, the handover information may be perfect for handover. And this is from a live job that we've been doing with Places for People. The fire stopping contractors used an application called Boris, and really good records of what they've installed. They've barcoded every single fire stop, and you'd think that was fantastic. The challenge is that what they then do is they put a single pin down on every single floor, on an image of a floor plan, and therefore, if you want to see a number of different fire stopping elements, you've got to look at a number of different drawings. And actually there's 1,500 drawings, 1,500 drawings. So the FM, I don't think stands a chance. They've got to open up dozens of drawings to see what's there. So what we've done in this particular case, we've used a combination of data engineering and AI to scan through the fire stopping report and extract from that the locations of all the fire stopping assets. Now, the contractor did a really good job because everyone has got a unique ID, so we can use that. And what we then did, we then picked up that unique ID, and then we've used that, including the coordinate information, to actually generate an interactive plan. So what this is doing here, every single fire stop is then it's then presented on a single floor plan. You can also overlay the fire doors and the other safety critical assets, but importantly, you can move from fire stop to fire stop to actually find out what the report is, and it can also pull out the information from the PDF. So we're turning the PDF into machine readable data, and we're doing that by data engineering. So we've actually got a group within BIM and Asset Management who've signed up to be part of the data engineering bit. So there's some very smart people in here that are probably using a lot of tools to extract information. So what we're doing is bringing these together with people that want to learn, and we can then go from there. So if you're interested in data engineering, then put data engineering in the chat, and we'll include you in our work in this area. The other thing that we did at Digital Construction Week was spoke to a lot of the other software companies that were exhibiting there, and all of those have agreed that they are very keen to work with us within BIM and Asset Management. Importantly, some of them are competitors, but they're willing to work collaboratively. So they're willing to share what they're doing with us and you. So I think that's a really positive sign. The other thing that just since the last forum meeting, we had a couple of us went to the Lang O'Rourke factory for the Build Offsite Alliance, and therefore we went through and had a tour of the factory, which was fantastic. And then I've now been asked to speak at the conference, the housing conference next week at the National Door Summit. So broadly, that's what we've been doing over this last month or so. So can I hand back to Richard? And we'll do some Q&A.
Let's right. Who's got? There's quite a lot to digest there. I think in half an hour, isn't there? Has anybody got any queries or questions or comments? What do you think about what you've heard so far? If you don't volunteer, I will pick on you.
Yeah, hi Richard, it's Sandy Coldridge. Again, very interesting, lots of really good information on these sessions. One thing that worries me, having recently taken handover of two large developments, residential developments, is the A-site information, obviously being the developer's single source of information. For me, it becomes an issue. I have flagged it internally and with the developer, as unfortunately they create a we transfer link from a site, which means because we can't get access to it for their information directly, they do a we transfer, and obviously once we do that, we then cease with the single source of information. We then have copied, we've got uncontrolled copies, and then internally it becomes, it gets copied. So kind of that's my big concern at the moment. It's good to see a site on your slide, the last slide, in regards to kind of engagement with companies. A site was on it, which is great to see. I do know that the developer, and they're a large house builder, are listening, but they are, in my opinion, considerably behind the times. And it'd be good to see a lot of representation from house builders on these calls, because I think we're probably, even with my limited experience, I'm probably further ahead of the curve than they are.
George, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I think one of the concerns that people have got is whether the information that's being collected during the design and construction period is actually going to, by sharing that with you, Andrew, is whether they're leaving themselves open to claims. And part of the challenge with that is a matter of trust. And the fact is, this is part of the awareness process. They think that by not telling you something, that they are protecting themselves, but actually they're probably increasing their risk, because the whole point about the legislation is that they are responsible for making sure that you, as a client, as a responsible person, has got the information that you need. So therefore, if they don't provide it to you in a way that you can consume, then they're not really satisfying their obligations. And that's why we as a group, I think, can help with that, because we can help articulate to the community, to the client community as well, that that they're not actually benefiting themselves in keeping it quiet. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I think they're very aware. I just think they're under huge amounts of pressure to hand over. To occupy. We start getting into the revenue streams, generating revenue streams, and unfortunately, what tends to happen, I'm finding, is that whilst it's a deliverable of the management agreement, that the PAP or the Manco or the resident directors or the RMC in this case is responsible for providing all of that golden thread information. That it's actually something that they're questioning. Not because they don't want to do it, it's because they don't know what it is they've got to do. And again, I kind of refer to two major house builders. I looked at a management agreement last week in preparation for a presentation, and it clearly stated that the developer would not be handing over documentation to any third party. Now, that springs to, what comes to mind at that point is, well, what are they going to do when they hand over the freehold interest to a set of resident directors? What do resident directors do in that situation? Do they have access into a site, as an example, or do we in the meantime have to provide a system of our own that can be transferred over? And again, moving ahead, if a managing agent ceases contract and another agent comes in, how is that information transferred, and what links are there to what might be a single source of information? Because I think we lose single source of information and transfer of information at the point we take handover, because we're not all aligned on the same systems.
I agree. And one of the things that we're very keen to try and execute here is have a common voice to overcome some of these things. So, for example, what you've just said there, the concern that people have got, we're finding that when we're doing audits of handover information, we're getting a load of drawings and documents that aren't final construction. They're not as built. Now, the question, the legislation says that things need to be as built information, but in many cases they're not. And there's an argument to say that for construction, I know that I've heard this argument, for construction is adequate. But what we're finding is that the information that we're being handed over, on behalf of clients, it includes stuff that is even rejected. Yeah, so the quality of the way in which they're using it, this isn't a reflection on A site or 4P or AConX or any other system. It's down to the fact that they're not using the systems properly, and they're not allocating that particular classification. So one of the things that we are doing within the group is coming up with means of classifying and structuring O&M information and health and safety files in a way that is standardized. So part of the exercise, I know I keep asking people to put stuff in the chat, but if you're interested in that work stream, standardized fire safety manuals, for example, please put that in because one of our colleagues here, one of the group, Mandeep, is coordinating that.
But put standardize in the chat if you want to be part of that. Christine.
You're on mute, Christine. Okay. Christine, are you there?
Okay, we'll assume that's a technical issue. Anybody else got anything they want to say on what we talked about already? Any comments? Okay, I'm going to move swiftly on. George, do you want to do the Golden Thread Task Force?
I will. Okay. So we've got a really strong group now. We've had the first sort of session, and one of the things that we're trying to do is to make it so that people can understand why we're doing the Golden Thread. So we've produced a video which if you go through if you do the one-to-one with me, I'll then share with you the video that basically explains why we're doing it. And I think a lot of people in the housing sector recognise that the gateways are a real issue at the moment. And this came from Bureau Veritas. Such an enormous number of fire safety rejections are because the fire safety information wasn't right. And I think everybody that's involved in asset management will recognise this, where they have to produce, they have to do surveys of brand new buildings to produce the asset lists. So one of the things that we've been doing with the Golden Thread Task Force, the development group in BIM for Housing, they were going to standardise their information requirements individually, and they've now agreed that they want to do that collectively, and that's going to make it a lot easier for supply chains, so that Peabody and places for people, they're all asking for the same information from their supply chain. It also means that if we can get that information in a more standardized way, then we can use more automated process and also make it easier to populate other systems. So that's what Mandeep is working on. So if you, as Richard said, if you put standardize or into the chat, then we can pick up on that. In terms of the Golden Thread, what we're encouraging people to do is do collaborations. So, for example, this is one that you've seen before, but this is checking the information that's in the secure information box. We're using 360 photography to check, and that for example, there's, if I step back, see there's a doorway there that isn't indicated on the plan from the fire brigade's secure information box. Now that could be very, very dangerous for the firefighters, and therefore we need to make sure that that type of thing is picked up and corrected. And part of the issue is that it's not clear which is the right floor plan. So, and I think everybody's probably experienced this as well. There's different versions of that. So what we're doing here is we're making it so that we can then go from that and take 360 photos. Also, we're moving into other areas. This is Caroline Flynn, who I think is on the call from CBRE. This is something that Caroline and I did in Leeds. So this is largely my incompetence here of being able to do 360s. But if I can do it, anybody can. And Caroline was helping me. She'd got some experience of this as well, so she took over from me. Caroline, would you like to say what we're doing here? Is Caroline on the call?
Yeah, I'm on the call. Thanks, George. Hi, I'm Carolyn. So, yeah, I'm from CBRE, asset manager there. George invited George over onto site for the day on one of our sites. Particular site we went to has got 6 plant rooms. So it was quite helpful to go through each one because it helped us to show that what each plant room holds. Bear in mind that I'm on a contract that's national. So head office being in London and not everybody being able to get round to our sites. So this helps. Well, this helped us. Well, what I want to bring in is with the 360 is to help our client, like when I'm talking assets to them, to say, look, this is what's in the plant room and this is what we need to work on, or what needs remedial work done to it. At the same time, it also helps me when I move from site to site to know, oh yes, this on this site and this on this side, this has got this on this side, this has got this. And it goes back into the whole labeling that George and his data team do behind the scenes for us. At the moment, we're concentrating on the plant rooms because obviously GDPR in public areas, it's in the healthcare, so we're not really doing the wards, but eventually would like to get there, get round into doing the fire doors and just identifying our various fire doors where they are and move along. But yeah, overall, it was an enjoyable day, George. We learned, didn't we? George, is he there?
George, you're on mute.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to get to it. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, somebody came in just as Caroline started talking there, and therefore I went on mute to try and address that. So that's exactly right. We had a great session today together. I learned a hell of a lot. I'd also like to say that if anybody else wants to either borrow a camera or to work with us on this to carry out something on their buildings, we're very happy to help. So if you want to do a pilot of the 360s, put pilot into the chat and we'll come back to you. I know we're making you work a bit at this, but at the end of the day, we're an action-based group rather than a talking shop. So let us know. We've got a few cameras that we can share. I was also going to just
George, can I just bring Andrew in? He's had his hand up for a little while. He wanted to ask something.
Of course.
Andrew.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, chaps. Thank you. Just referencing a couple of earlier slides in regards to the floor plans in the property information boxes. Recently on taking a hand over a site, opened the property information box, laminated floor plans. You would need a magnifying glass because it is a full floor plan of the entire development. And I asked the question, if sorry, dogs in the background, if I am a fire brigade or a member of fire officer and I'm on site and I'm in a hurry, am I going to read that? Can I see it? Is the first question. The answer will be no. And am I going to give it any time? I think again the answer would be no. The feedback I got was they'll just break the doors down anyway. So I wanted to question the value of those. I get it. Is it just a compliance thing? Is it meant to provide information as I anticipate it should be? But more importantly, is it something that should be of a particular scale for a particular area, or is it acceptable to have a floor plan that is you can't read?
I would say most definitely not. And in fact, there are good examples within the National Fire Chiefs Council's FIA examples. I think that what we need to do is to make sure that the information is. I understand the issue because obviously, if you've got something like a large complex, then you can have an image that you can't actually read. But maybe that's what we need to work on together, Andrew.
Well, I think the question was, does it add any value? And I think the answer to that is no, it doesn't. But it ticks a box.
It doesn't add value if it's not readable. I agree, but that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be a floor plan.
Again, having a floor plan ticks a box, but if it adds no value.
Well, in that particular case, I can assure you that the fire brigade told me that was a particularly dangerous situation, because in that particular example, it was showing, in fact, actually, I think Paul Womack, are you on the call at the moment, Paul?
I am indeed, yes.
Yeah, Paul's a former firefighter, and in fact, he was involved in that one. When we discussed that when I've discussed it subsequently, Paul, with obviously on a confidential basis with the fire services, and they said absolutely that would create real danger for their firefighters when they arrive, because it suggests that's a closed off area, but it isn't.
Yeah, the officer in charge will direct the crews of where they're going within the building, and the officer in charge will be monitoring using the plans, so understanding exactly where they're gonna, where they are. You need to go, because they're in comms with radios. Third door on the right, fifth door on the left, etc. And what I used to do with a fire response team is we had 2 sets of plans, and we chose the room, detailed the room where the fire was, and then put a pencil hole through all the sheets, so that we'd get a better understanding of not only where the fire could spread horizontally and vertically, and also use it for water. So when any fire crews were putting on lots of water on a fire, the crews would understand what equipment, etc., could be potentially below for salvage works. So just producing these plans is just a starting point. And so when I was in hospitals, we used those plans to develop where we needed to put salvage in operation. So they are used, but as you've hit on, they've got to be fit for purpose. So it could have to be designed that you'd have the different floor plans, but then you'd have separate plans for each zone.
I think, Andrew, you've hit the nail on the head, and that is that whoever's producing something needs to think about who's going to consume it and have responsibility for making sure that whatever is being produced isn't just a tick in the box. It's actually intended to accept that they've got to take responsibility for the fact that the information is adequate. And that's exactly the challenge that I think that we've got with the fire stopping, for example. The example I've given you there with the fire stopping contractor's done exactly what the construction teams need, but it actually doesn't help the asset managers.
George, can I ask you, how close are you to finishing?
I've pretty well finished. I was going to hand over to Barry. So Barry's going to show something that he's been doing with the data center.
Right, we've got a couple of questions. Should we take those now?
Yeah, sure.
Pierre. You're on mute, Pierre. Yeah, you are.
There we go. So just very quickly, we've got technology. We've got it to enable us to do various things. So exactly like these fire issues, it goes back to drafting. You need to be able to show the information at the appropriate scale. We also need to make sure that the strategy is in there, that when it gets updated, it is cascaded to all the various parties, particularly the life safety, fire safety, etc. But there are technologies available right now which are under development that are opening up that effectively the model is boundless. And because it's digital, it gives you the capability, and Matt, it would be from a fire officer's point of view, is heads-up displays. What do you do when you run into a building that's full of smoke and you can't see anything? Is that object could in fact be glowing bright blue or bright green to say this is the fire escape lift or access gate. You can't see it in real terms, but it can actually show you where you're going. And that's the kind of sanity that we should be actually looking at, is using the technology to enable us to do the things better. It's how it gets sourced and how it gets stored and made accessible. That's the bigger problem on a national and international thing. Sorry, that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Neil.
Yes, I agree about the plans being just printed out and not readable. But you can have waterproof plans. We've used those in the past. Printed on special materials, so you can do them full size, and then you can fold them up and then put them in the box, ready for the fire service. So rather than laminating A3s, you can use these plans that are designed for site work. Really, very durable. And then, like I say, you just fold them up. So maybe that could be something that's specified, when they want to have this information delivered.
Okay, George, do you want to introduce Barry?
Yeah, sure. Are you there, Barry? Barry Basnett? Okay, sounds as though Barry's not there.
Okay, so that being the case, are there any more questions on the Golden Thread Task Force?
Christine's on.
Yeah, I've remembered.
Right, give me 1 second. Let me just finish where I was. Okay, so if you want to join the Golden Thread Task Force, put Task Force in the chat. Task Force in the chat. Okay, Christine, you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No problem.
It's going back to sort of Andrew's comment about handover information again. And it's always still, and what you're sort of saying, what you get downstream and stuff. And again, it almost seems to me that it would be better that the building owner operator should actually hold the system where all the data gets collated, and then they give permission to either the managing agent, who could give out permission to all the subcontractors when they have to supply data. That way, the data is almost always in ownership of the person who's going to operate the building. And you've got various stages to sort of curate the data or build up these different models as you go along, because essentially you're setting out the standards from the offset. So when data gets collected, they have stuff to work from, but they'll fill in the details for relevant assets. Whereas if you're actually trying to push your data up to who's going to operate the system and say, here you are, a handover, and you may or may not have it, then you're always going to have everyone using their own particular system, their own reference points. But if you do it the other way around, because that is ultimately the goal, you can sort of get the uniformity sort of built in up front.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Or should we move? Actually, we've got a little bit of time. So yeah, should we move?
I've just spoken to Barry, and he's about 5 minutes away. So
okay, so why don't I take that 5 minutes to whiz through the results of the survey?
Please.
Jess, can you share your screen? Results of our survey. Great. So, have you experienced FM contractors closing off reactive calls that were actually not completed. And 63%, nearly 2/3, say yes, you have. Okay, the next one. Should the completion of outstanding actions from fire risk assessments and reactive calls be overseen by the responsible person? Yeah, 96% say yes. I think many of them would have said yes, of course. Right, number 3, how easy is it to use and update the fire stopping records delivered by construction? Easy, difficult, impossible. Right, well, 80-something% say difficult. Okay, number 4. Should the responsible person have a record of which safety critical assets have not been inspected? That's unanimous, 100% yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Should the responsible person know which individual assets protect each compartment and their inspection history? And we've got 96% yes on that one.
Yep.
Next one. Are you asked to report on embodied carbon? And 70% is no, 30% yes. Are you asked to report on operational carbon? Same thing, 70% yes, 30% no. Are you using AI or large language models to check the completeness of handover information, in particular, the fire and emergency file? Well, 94% no, 6% yes. Can I just say, can I just say, the action group, the work stream that I spoke about earlier on, a big focus on that will be on the use of AI and large language models, and how we can, and what we can do to use them more and make them more appropriate. So that's going to be quite a focus for. So again, if you want to join the action group, put action in the chat.
Yeah, part of the reason for that also, we're taking information from other projects. I was talking with somebody last week who's working on NEOM, which is the huge thing in Saudi Arabia, and part of the thing that they're doing is exactly that. So we're tapping into lots of other people that are doing things, and we can bring that to the table. So if you're interested, please let us know, and we can include you. Sorry,
yeah,
Richard.
absolutely. No. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. So and not just you, obviously. If there's anybody else you know or people you're working with who you think should be interested or could be interested and would like to input and learn, certainly please let them know about what we're doing and the various groups we've got. So action in the chat. Okay, so should the responsible person know where all the penetration seals are and what products material were used? And we've got 92% say yes, 8% say no. What is the life expectancy of a penetration seal? Well, that's quite a... So the majority, 57%, say 25 years. Then we've got 10 years and a couple for 50 years and a couple for 100 years. So that's quite a disparity, isn't it?
Well, the reason I asked that question,
which is correct. What's the correct answer, George?
I don't know the correct answer. I mean, in fact, it will almost certainly be one of these. It depends.
Yeah.
Because there's different types of penetration seal, and also it depends on where it is and all the rest of it. But I think the critical thing is that it's not permanent. In other words, at some stage, that penetration seal's going to need to be. Pancho's got his hand up. It might be a good idea just take.
I just want to say, from the Regulation 38 point of view, when we undertake a Regulation 38 review, those materials come with warranty, and when it's installed correctly, they should be a specified number of years of warranty under the normal standard conditions. However, each year they need to be checked.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
But at some stage, Pancho, that some of them will need to be replaced, and I think people need to be able to plan for that. Paul Sheedy was saying to me on one of these events a couple of months ago about replacing glazing panels, and that they've only got a life. The seals around the glazing panels on high-rise blocks on offices are probably 25 years, and that's not very long. Sorry,
Yeah,
Richard, carry on.
most of the
No,
fire stopping
that's-
life expectancy is between 50 and 25 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay, so question 12. Should fire risk assessment include inspection of penetration seals and fire stopping? Yes, 100% yes. How frequently should penetration seals be checked? And our majority is yearly, with a few going for weekly, monthly, 3 monthly, 6 monthly. So how often, Penjo? How often
Well,
should they be checked?
As part of the risk assessment, in my view, the fire risk assessment should undertake obviously a sample inspections of the fire stopping checks.
Yeah.
So,
And
Yeah.
and that would be annual, would it?
yeah, that should be added on it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Right. Should fire risk assessments include checking above ceilings and in risers? We've got almost 100% yes. Okay, so that's our poll results for this week. And we'll repeat again, if you want to get involved in looking deeper in those things, please do put action in the chat. Cyprian.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that last statement. I think I've seen it in going around on the social media, LinkedIn. Basically, if you are going to say yes, they need to check. Remember, we have 4 different types of fire risk assessment. What would need to do then, in order for saying that if you're going to be checking fire stopping, then we would have to change the parameter, the requirement standard for type 1. Type 3 and type 4 in that sense, because obviously type 1, all of the types have a minimum requirement and standard of what needs to be checked. So when you start going that parameter, if you need to check everything, then you would need to say, should we be looking at changing the standards for type 1, the minimum standard and minimum requirement needed for type 1, and then same thing for type 3 and type 4.
Okay. Penjo.
I just want to say that a visual inspection of the riser within, let's say, type 1 or type 2 or type 4 is regardless of that, a visual inspection can be undertaken. We're not talking about an intrusive inspection when you need to open up architraves to see actually the fire stopping around the door frame. We're just talking about a visual inspection in the risers or cupboards, which could be undertaken as part of the within that limit of the scope of the inspection, which could be type 1 to 4, regardless. But yes.
Well, the question says fire stopping. So, I mean, it says fire stopping it's what it is. Fire stopping is not only in risers. It's a standard thing for you to open risers and check risers, they're type 1. But the question is, should fire stopping be checked? Fire stopping, it is not restricted to risers. So when you ask a question like that, you have to look on it on a whole. It's what the question is directly. Should fire stopping be checked? So you can't just say looking in risers. Fire stopping is not restricted to riser. Pencho.
I think the guidance are quite clear on the scope of the inspection 1 to 4. So the fire stopping appears in every type of inspection. It's just in different stages and different intrusiveness. But
it's just all the question is asked, because fire stopping is fire stopping and it's not restricted. It didn't say should fire stopping be checked in areas that can be accessed. For example, the riser. It said should fire stopping be checked.
No, I understand where you're coming from. Is what you're saying is that the question was actually not specific enough.
Well, no. Sorry, I composed the question in that way intentionally. So, Cyprian, the reason for that, Cyprian, is that if we as lay people, I mean, you're an expert and Pencho's an expert, that if let's say I'm an FM, and I procure somebody to do a fire risk assessment, I might think that somebody's checking the compartmentation, right? I might think that they're checking the penetration seals above the ceiling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fact that it may not be common practice because for procurement reasons, and I understand the issue there with obviously cost and all the rest of it, but I think what we need to do is if the penetration seal is an important fire protection measure, and therefore we need to make sure that it is there. If the fire risk assessment isn't doing it and the FM isn't doing it, who is doing it?
I see your point.
Yeah. So therefore, I think I think possibly, I mean, you know much more about this than I, but maybe I don't know, a type 3 or something like that should include. It's not as Pencho is saying there, a destructive or an intrusive survey just to look above a ceiling. I don't think. So that's really, but I absolutely agree with you that we need to make sure that the whatever the cost of that fire risk assessment is needs to reflect what people are actually doing for it. That was it, Richard.
Great. George, is Barry part of Collaboration on Products?
Yes.
Excellent. Then we're in good time. Is he there?
Yes, I am.
Barry, welcome.
Hi.
I'm not sure what you're going to do because it doesn't say on my agenda, but I know you know, so you carry on.
Yeah, it was just to talk about 360 imagery and some of the tricks, and also promote this masterclass we're doing. I think it's
Excellent.
next Friday. Yeah. Okay, so I've just done some. There are a number of issues to do with. I'll need to share my screen if that's all right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, and can you see a bit of pipe work?
That's it. Brilliant.
Okay, so this is a plant room in a data center I've been working on, and basically I'll need to hold on a sec, I need to zoom out here. I've got my mouse. So I'm trying to do this in my car at the moment because I'm out and about doing work. So, okay, excuse me while I sort of. So this is the level of detail that we can get from the 360s, and that's what we're going to be highlighting next week. We can actually zoom into an amazing amount of detail. Okay, but that's not the real issue. The real issue is what happens in, say, the roof, because although these cameras are great, quite often these are poorly lit. And I wanted to show you an example of this. I'll have to share my screen again. Stop sharing that and share another image. Hold on one second. Can you see a roof space now?
Not yet.
No, okay, that's me. Hold on a minute. I need to share that particular screen. That's a window, and it's just roof space. Okay. You see roof space now?
Something's coming. Yes, we can.
Okay, so it's a black box with some triangles on. So this is my photo editing thing, but quite often when you're doing plant rooms and 360, the lighting is not very good for these 360s. So what we're going to be showing in the masterclass is how we can do this. Okay, so that would be the normal lighting, and this is when we've done a bit of fiddling about. Okay, so yeah, so this is a really simple way of using 360 imagery without lighting to see all the details that are normally hidden. So that's what we're going to be showing at the masterclass next week, a workflow for how to do that. Okay, does that make sense? So that's sort of what it looked like before, and that's what it looks like after. And if I zoom in, you'll see the level of detail that we can see from this. Now, these are all 360 imagery that you can then use and tag in whatever software you choose to do it with. Obviously, there's one or two systems out there which ideally suited for this. But the challenge when you're using 360 imagery is just the lighting in a building. And some of the cameras are very good at using them and some aren't. So we're going to show you how you can get around this problem. Okay.
Yeah, that's next Friday, the 27th at 11 o'clock. If anybody wants to come along, put masterclass in the chat and we'll get invites out to you. And Barry will be showing you all the tricks of the trade for 360 camera digital asset capture.
In an hour or so. So yeah, that's fine. Okay, guys.
Thank you, Barry.
Brilliant, man. Thank you. So masterclass in the chat.
No worries.
Richard, could I just, could I just, there's Vic Finn from Withenshaw. Vic, are you on the call at the moment?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, so could you just explain what you've been doing with 360s?
Yeah, well, so when we started to think about we're going to have to capture assets, but also we've got to deliver a building safety case both to the regulator, information also to the fire service, and we've got to provide our residents with information on fire safety as well. We came up with the idea of doing the 360s for each block. So I know I've sent you a link, George, for you to have a look at it. So what we decided to do initially was think about the resident and how we can provide that information, but also the fire service and colleagues as well in as different many ways as we can in an understandable format. So we thought the 360 walkthrough for each block is probably going to be that format. We also put avatars on that you could pick languages from. So it introduces the block, it says what we're trying to do to that block, and it gives you directional arrows to go to so you can do a walkthrough of the block. We also put hotspots on the walls so you can see your fire risk assessments, your plans, where the PID box is, where all your central firefighting equipment is. So the idea was initially we get that set up, and we've got a resident friendly format. We've also got a format that, you know, we can look into the PIBs information that we might be able to share with the fire service. So it was a way of getting something that we could either lock down or choose what we're going to share that information on and who we're with. But also it's a format that residents can completely understand. They can have a look into some areas that they probably wouldn't be able to go into normally. Stops them, you know, wondering what's in there as well. And it gives a good overview. It goes onto the roof. It goes onto all areas of the roof and where the permits areas would be. And it also, for colleagues, it tells you where permits are required to access those areas. So yeah, so we've been doing that 360 for a while now. And what we've done is we've put that on in the blocks. We've actually put it on the digital screens so people can access them there as well.
I think that's brilliant. So Vic, you've done that yourself, have you?
Yeah, so well, we had somebody come in and do us a website. That's, you know, we've got our own website address, so we've done it on that, and that's just a different format of doing it, isn't it? But it was to enable us to actually attach a QR code to it, so residents can go in as well.
Yeah, Vic, what I meant was you're taking your own 360s.
Yeah, well, via somebody that's doing them for us. Yeah, an external consultant's doing them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So what obviously we're trying to do is get to a situation where, like Paul Womack, the 360s are simple to use, like Caroline was showing earlier. I think it's a really good thing if the building safety managers can take their own 360s, because then you can do it. It's not a one-off thing. It's something that you can do. You know, maybe I suspect you probably visit most of your sites on a reasonably regular basis, do you?
Was that to me, George? Sorry, you kept
sorry.
Out.
Oh, I apologise. Sorry.
Yes. We're quite lucky, really. We've got all our blocks in quite close proximity. So yeah, we're there every week visiting the blocks.
Yeah. So the principal idea of this that we're trying to get to is that you can then if you go and see something that has changed, or see something that potentially you need to share with colleagues, then taking a new 360 is a really good way of doing that, because you've then got something that you can share. Is Paul Booth also on the call? I'm sorry, I can't see everybody. Is Paul Booth from the NHS on the call? Okay, so Paul he's also part of the Golden Thread Task Force, and he's gone and bought a camera, which is fantastic, and he's been doing it around his sites. So he's got I think he explained he's got about 80 sites, some of which are quite small, but some are hospitals. And what he's doing there is taking the 360s, and he's now sharing those with us so that we can then see how we can use that to turn it into asset information for him. The other thing I would say is that what would be really helpful, what Vic's doing there, and also the rest of you, if you could give some thought as to what information you actually want to get from your fire and emergency file, for example. What sort of day-to-day problems are you encountering that would be made easier if you had access to certain information, so that when you're going into the health and safety file or the O&Ms, if we can actually identify what the problem is that you're actually trying to get the information for, what we can do is make sure that the information is structured in the way that you can find it easily. I mean, this is the sort of thing that Neil Bailey at Total Documentation, you're a master at. So if we can get some sort of standard scenarios like that, what we can also do is feed that into the AI. Because if we can actually identify what information, what documents are actually going to make it easier for you to do certain checks, it means that we can then create intelligent links for those particular information sets. It also enables us to turn some of the information that's in documents into machine readable information, so that we can actually then utilize it in different ways and present it differently. So if you're interested in that area, I think I'm loath to. Did we have an AI one, Richard? I can't remember. I've lost track.
Well, the AI. Well, we're going to use Action as the primarily focused on AI.
Good. That's great. Action's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, if you're interested in that area of things, join the Action group. Put Action in the chat.
I mean, part of the issue here is that, for example, working with Pencho's a fire engineer at Places for People, but he's got colleagues that want quite different information. He's got people, on compliance or people that are on asset management, all of whom need slightly different information. So if we can understand what each of them needs information for, what problem is it that they're trying to solve? Therefore, we can curate the information that's needed. So going back to what Andrew Coldridge was saying earlier, some of that information may be in a site or 4 projects or whatever, but if we understand what it is, that can be then curated so it becomes immediately and easily accessible. Okay, that's me, Richard.
Okay, so let's have a quick recap of where we are. Anybody who wants to see or get involved with the Miro board, put Miro in the chat. Remember that just posted at the top when we first came into the meeting, the link, the hot link to our 30-minute, 8:30 to 9 o'clock every morning, Monday to Friday, drop-in centre. So make sure you've got a note of that. And if you've got anything interesting or exciting or a query or just want to pop in for a quick chat, join us then. We've got action, which is partially on the polls, but primarily on AI kind of things. If you want to join the action group, put action in the chat. We've got the Golden Thread Task Force. If you're interested in joining the task force that covers many things, mostly digital asset capture, get involved in that. Put task force in the chat. If you want to get involved in DAC and 360 photography, learn more or give us your experiences. We're always very, very pleased to get live action experiences from people. That's because this is the real stuff. It's not theoretical. So in that case, put DAC in the chat. And then if you really want to learn all the good stuff on 360 photography, then you must join Barry next Friday, 27th at 11 a.m. for the DAC Masterclass. Put Masterclass in the chat. That is absolutely not to be missed if that's where you're thinking of using that technology. Okay, so anybody got any questions before we finish?
I've got one other question, Richard, just if nobody else has. So
yeah.
We're already, I think everybody knows, we're already working closely with Open Space. Now, what Open Space do, they're one of the many companies that do construction documentation by walking the site with cameras, and it captures 360s of the design and construction process. So what that means is, from an asset management point of view, they're capturing information about what is behind ceilings before they get closed out. Now, we're now moving on to the next level of collaboration with them, where we're doing some integration with them about how we can access some AI tools that they've been building as well. And we're also working with Multivista, who do a lot with fire stopping and similar types of things. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is that if we can then look at if you're aware of any projects that you're working on where they've used either Open Space or Oculo or BuildOps or one of the other applications that they've used it during design and construction, then if you want us to, we could probably make a connection there to get you access to the 360s, subject to the construction company or the client giving permission. But it's a delicate area because everybody's a bit concerned about the potential risk on this. But I think we've got a pretty good argument on that. So if you've got something where they're using that, if you let us know, then we can probably bridge that gap for you.
Absolutely. It's all about collaboration. Okay, one thing I didn't remind, the one-to-ones with George, quick 15-minute chats to see where we are, to see where you are, and how we can develop that relationship further. So put one-to-one in the chat.
Oh, just talking about collaboration, you just sparked a thought, Richard. I sent a note out to a few people earlier in the week because we're about to start. This is we as Active Plan, but it's also a number of members of the task force. We're about to start a commission for one of the London authorities on a 1970s area in where we're doing a complete scan to BIM. I'm cautious of calling it scan to BIM because actually it's probably scan to 3D. But what we're also doing is going the next stage and doing fire checking fire assets and things like that. So what we're planning to do going forward is look at this as something that we're going to be bringing to the task group. So there may be some opportunities for some of the members of the task group to help us on that. But if there are any clients on here that are thinking of doing the same sort of thing, in other words, using laser scanning to create models of existing buildings that they then want to use from a fire safety point of view and a building safety point of view, let us know, because we might be able to glue those things together, and you can learn from us when we're going through and finding different ways of doing things, and we can learn from you. So if you've got anything, let us know.
Okay, we're going to squeeze. We don't hold meetings sort of like last part of July or August and into early September for obvious reasons. But we are squeezing one more forum meeting in just before sort of middle. I think it's the 17th, isn't it, Jess? So the 17th of July. So you'll be getting invites out for that.
That's on the 17th.
Okay, great. So 17th, same time. See you then. You'll get invites. Great, fantastic meeting as always. Thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Well done, Richard. Thank you.
Cheers, man. Bye.